welcome to My Life. This is George, and I'm here with Pat Mueller. Pat has recently retired from Oxford schools, and we're going to be taking time to talk about Pat's life.
Oh my goodness.
Welcome, Pat.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank you. You're very welcome. Tell me about where you were born.
I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Grew up there.
Cheesehead.
I'm a cheesehead, and I am a cheesehead.
Okay.
And a Lions fan at the same time.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, it's kind of...
So, you were born in Wisconsin. How many siblings?
I have 4 siblings. There's 5
siblings.
of us.
5 of you all together.
Yeah.
Mom and Dad.
Mom and Dad.
And
Dennis and Mary Claire.
And what did they do?
My mom actually stayed home. Okay. My dad was a tool and die maker.
Oh.
And then he began to figure out how to do grain drying and engineer things. So he started his own business and sold and developed grain dryers and all sorts of other products.
Okay, so from Wisconsin, then how did you get to Michigan?
Well, one of my dad's forays was into pneumatics. He worked for a company as a consultant that did pneumatic, like for machines, you know, like punch presses and so on, and other kind of pneumatics. And they moved us here from Wisconsin to Rochester.
Oh, okay.
I was 16. It was devastating.
And you went to Rochester?
Adams
High School?
I did.
Now, I understand, I heard through the grapevine you had an interesting classmate.
I did. I shared a locker with Madonna.
You did?
Madonna Saccone is her real name. And so it was
Her folks have the winery up north.
They do, on Leland. I saw it when we went by. She was in the same grade as I was. It was just a
Your
good year.
claim to fame is sharing a locker.
My claim to fame. And it's funny because when they have, like in Hard Rock Cafes and all that, they'll have yearbook pictures. And there I am.
Right beside Madonna.
Yeah, right beside Madonna.
That is cool. That is cool. So from high school, what did you do?
Actually, I worked.
You worked?
I did receive a Michigan competitive scholarship, but I wasn't quite ready to go. So I worked and I moved out and met my honey.
Wonderful.
My David Mueller. I married him when I was 18.
Wow.
I know. I didn't even know him that long when I married him.
Doesn't matter. It worked.
It did. We've been married for 42 years.
Congratulations.
So that worked out just fine.
Neat. That is neat. So when you were married, you stayed in the Rochester, southeastern Michigan area, or did you travel?
No, we stayed here. Okay. Actually, we moved to Oxford.
Oh, okay.
And we had a little house out on Lakeville Road. It's next to Beaver Stair Company. And now it's kind of a dilapidated house. But it used to be our home, and it was way before there was all these houses and there was multiple schools. You know, the elementary was the middle was the high school. It was a much smaller town at that time. And then we moved to Lapeer for a year, and then we moved back to Drainer Road. We lived there for 7, and we've been at our house on Sandstone ever since.
Wow, neat. So, how many kids?
I have 3.
3?
Yeah. They're all, 2 of them are married.
Okay.
And one of them is committed, so that's very exciting. And I have 5 grandkids.
Wonderful.
The joy of my life.
Do they live in the area so you can enjoy them?
Yes, they do. My daughter and husband and 4 kids live in Ortonville. And my son, his wife, and daughter live in Clarkston. And my son and his girlfriend live actually in the same house that my husband grew up in Lake Orion.
That is neat.
Yeah.
That is neat.
It is.
Very neat. So, from being a mom, raising your family, then what happened to your interest then?
Well, I still always wanted to learn. I've always been a learner. I like that kind of thing. So what I did was I started going to school.
Okay.
So before my 3rd one was even born, I started, in fact, Pontiac Business Institute was a school that was on Drainer Road.
Okay.
It was part of the Sisters Retreat area. And so I went to school there, became a medical assistant, had an associate's degree, but something happened. I started to volunteer in school in preschool with my oldest son.
Okay.
I loved preschool.
Fell in love with kids.
Fell in love with kids, fell in love with preschool, fell in love with school. So then, of course, you have to go to the next piece of school. So then I went and got an associate's in early childhood. And then I'm working along, and now I want to do my own idea, right? I don't want to be an assistant to anybody. I want to figure out what's going on in the classroom. Paul Gearhart, who was the principal at Clear Lake for many years, hired me to come on and work in Head Start. What a wonderful program. How wonderful for me. Ended up getting my bachelor's, but I decided to go to administration because at this time I was working in early childhood, but now I'm working more in an administrative role.
Okay. More supervisory and administrative.
So I need to learn how to do that. I don't know how to do that. I know how to do some classroom kind of things. Anyway, so I found myself drawn more and more to administration. So I decided that's where my interest lied, and I like education administration. So I got a degree in education, got a degree in
a master's then,
and now I have my master's. Well, for a long time now.
Yes.
I have an MBA.
Very good. Very good. So you started with the preschool, and you were in Oxford, and then you went from Oxford then you stayed basically at Head Start in Oxford then?
Yep, I did.
You stayed
and then I had the opportunity, once I got my degree, to be a lead teacher in the Pontiac program in Oxford. So I did go to Pontiac. I was there a short time. My youngest became ill. And so I stayed home to take care of him. He's a cancer survivor.
Wow.
Yay! He's one of the Drainer Road kids. Anyway, I went to Holly after that and worked in Holly for 3 years. Then I decided that I would go to Clarkston.
Okay.
When I was at Clarkston, I worked a little bit for Oakland Family Services, which ran the grants.
Okay.
Because I was more administrative. This is where my administration started. And so I worked in preschool, and I worked in kindergarten enrichment, and I worked in some new programs because I thought, if we want to make sure the kids are doing well in school, then we need to start them off in the right way.
Exactly.
And then we need to follow them to make sure that what we're doing is working.
Okay.
I'm sure, I know you have a background in education as well.
Right. And we'll continue that thought when we come back.
Okay, wonderful.
Very good. Thanks. Welcome back, and we're continuing our next segment with Pat, talking about her life. And we were talking about your experience with the Head Start, but you also mentioned your son. And I'd like to pick up on that. You mentioned he was one of the Drainer Road boys. And what's the story behind that?
I don't know exactly what happened, but the corner of Drainer and Sanders ended up with a lot of kids who ended up with cancer.
Wow.
Isn't that something? He had a lymphoma, a Burkitt's lymphoma, which is really, it's a very unusual cancer.
What's it called again?
Burkitt's lymphoma.
And where does that impact the body?
He grew tumors in his abdomen.
Wow.
And so they removed all those tumors, and he had chemo for a couple of years. And he is now 35.
Wow.
So it worked. He's a survivor.
Wonderful.
I know. I hope that happened to all the other kids that
Definitely
became ill.
But you said some of the other kids weren't that lucky then.
No, they weren't.
And that was how many, that would have been,
Well,
let's say you said
he
he's
was
35,
4.
maybe 25 years ago this
Yeah,
was
31.
happening. Wow.
I know. And there was this whole little, like, cluster of cases. I don't know what on earth could have happened that created that. I don't know, water, I don't. It's
The mystery to be
the
solved.
the mysteries of the universe. Yes,
Right,
we just don't know.
definitely. So you said you bounced around different districts. You said you were in Holly for a while, and you Holly in the preschool component?
Yes, what happened is when I went to Pontiac and Jason became ill, I started working in the office. So this is where my love for administration started. So, because I couldn't work all the time. And when you're in a classroom, you have to be in a classroom.
Right.
It's not a part-time
it's right
kind of thing.
time on task.
Yeah, exactly. So it worked out better for me to just go to OLSA, which operates all the Head Start in Oakland County. When I was there, I started to write a grant with a gal who worked there, a grant to the Michigan Department of Education for a Head Start type program that was really, really school readiness oriented. Not as much social service oriented, but much more educationally oriented. We received the grant. It was amazing. We were so excited. Now we needed a teacher. So I ended up going to Holly and taught the program for the first 3 years of the grant. The grant is in a 3-year cycle, so that we could establish the program and make sure that we could grow it.
Right. And
So-
get the results you were looking for,
Right.
and document it, and then
And
reapply again.
and make sure that that our program did work, because we really weren't sure about that. At the same time, I worked part-time because, like I said, my son had been ill. So I just worked a half a day.
Okay.
It worked out really well for my family at that point. Then what happened was we decided to grow ourselves into Clarkston. So I went over there and taught for a year with another teacher so that I could show her how to go about.
Would that have been in the primary grades then, like preschool, like
Yes,
what is Funshine?
preschool and kindergarten, Funshine.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's now soccer fields, but it used to be an elementary, and it was the community ed program. So I worked with that program, and also we did some work with teen parents who were finishing high school. Like just teaching them how to care for their child, teaching them about child development, teaching them what to expect.
And that's important. You become a parent for the first time.
And it's really hard when you're 25.
Yes.
When you're 15, it's crazy hard, because you still are a teenager.
Yes.
So you have these conflicting needs. Then what happened was I decided we were growing the grant. And so Oakland Family Services was also writing grants for this same program. So I was working with OLSA for half of the day and with Oakland Family Services for half of the day. Really what we were trying to do is to make sure that we were promoting school readiness and family involvement and working within the school districts themselves. It was critical to us that we looked at what children needed to be successful in individual districts. For example, Clarkston might have a different set of expectations for a kindergartner. Oxford has a different set. They're similar, but they're a little different. So we wanted to make sure that our preschool programs were promoting the overall goal of making sure that kids graduate high school and that they do that well and easy and that they have good social and educational outcomes.
And that's so critical, again, for children, no matter what their background, that when they come into school, it's a big opportunity, and children come in there. A lot of politicians think you can just educate them like robots. Well, they're not.
They're not. They're individuals, and their families are individual, and their cultures are individual. And so what we want,
lots of variables.
There are, and so what we want to do is not be as close to the. we want to make sure that the culture of the student matches the culture of the district. And I know that this is important.
Yes.
Like, I know this. So I just had to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
And
So you were successful in Clarkston and then ultimately in Oxford then?
Yes, well, okay, we're not back to Oxford
Okay,
yet.
you're not back there yet.
So now, but it's funny because I'm still doing the same work. I have to move to where, I went to Oakland Family Services full-time because we ended up with 6 classrooms, 144 students.
Wow.
It got to be quite big. And what we noticed is that we needed ancillary services for children. So for example, what's really helpful is to have a parent education component, a PTA type thing. We need to set that up. So Oakland Family Services was critical to that. At Oakland Family Services is where I came back to Oxford.
Neat. So,
yeah.
Then you were in Oxford for how many years then?
Wait.
Okay. I'm getting ahead of the game here.
And then I went to the Oakland County.
Oh.
Because what happened was...
Oakland schools then, or?
No, actually, I went to the early childhood program called Little Oaks. The whole idea with Little Oaks here, so this is why I morphed over there, is that now we can look at political and policy. We can look at how does policy affect education. So I wanted to learn how to do that. So I worked with Oakland schools, but I worked for Oakland County. I still worked with Oxford as a trainer and a consultant. I did lots of training with Oxford.
You had lots of pots on the stove.
I did, and I had kids, and oh my goodness, but you know, you have the energy for it because it matters. It truly matters what we're doing.
Definitely.
And then I came back to Oxford. And then I worked here in Oxford for another 6 years.
6 years. Yeah.
So,
and then recently, let's take a pause right now, and we'll come back and talk about the programs in Oxford, and then transition after that, and what you and David and family like to do in the next segment.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
There's a lot of history to Oxford. Hidden around every corner, deep in every crack, and sometimes right in front of you, waiting to be discovered. If you just dig a little, you'll find the great history of our beautiful town. Welcome to Historic Oxford.
Welcome back to the final segment of My Life. I'm George here again with Pat Mueller, and we've had a marvelous time up to this point, and we're going to continue on. So last we wrapped up talking about coming back to Oxford, and you had the 6 years, and each of the 6 years were you like a supervisor, or were you a teacher, or a combination of both?
You know what I decided? I think that one of the most important positions within any program, especially multiple focus programs, is the coordinator. So I decided that's what I really wanted to do. After all this working and figuring it out after all these 30 years that I had been doing it by now, it seems to me that the critical role, I've been a director, I've been a teacher, I've been an assistant, I've been an executive director. But really, I think that one of the most important places that I can really help teachers and then help students as a result is being in that coordinator position. Because that affords me the opportunity to be in the classroom, to do some training and support, mentoring. And I love the idea that I get to help people get better. And we can discover things together because they know a lot of things that I don't know. And that's meaningful to me. I'm so grateful that I was able to come back to Oxford. I started my career in Oxford and I finished it in Oxford. Couldn't have asked for anything better.
Okay. Now I understand about a year and a half, your personal life took a bit of a health-wise.
Yes. I got this illness called transverse myelitis, which is an inflammation in your spinal cord. So I was quite sick for a little while, and what happens is it damages your spinal cord.
Oh.
So now I need a walker, and I
Move a little slower. You're
Yes.
still moving, but a
Oh,
little.
yeah. I'm much better when I'm sitting, yes.
Yes.
I do use a walker and my wheelchair and a scooter to get around, and I'm sad about that. It really kind of forced me to retire a little sooner than I was ready, but it's very difficult.
Yeah.
You know, I can't drive anymore, but I can do a lot of things. Like you said,
Definitely.
might not be able to do everything, but I can still do things, right?
And you still have grandkids.
I do, and they are the best ever. I love grandkids. They're better than the originals.
Okay, tell
I
me
tell
about
everybody
them.
that. Okay, all right. The oldest is John, and John is baseball. He loves to play baseball and do that kind of thing. And he's also he likes quiz bowl and baseball and that kind of stuff. The second one is Brittany, and Brittany is 12 now. And Brittany is the artist. She loves to go to art class. She loves to cook. She's a performer. She's a cheerleader. She does gymnastics. That's her kind of thing. Then we have Devin, our quiet little Devin. And Devin enjoys figuring anything out. He's the mechanic. He can figure anything out.
He's
He
got a
can
little of
take apart
grandpa's
all-
genes in him then.
Yeah, he does. His grandpa's like that. And let's see, and my
Or
dad.
great-grandpa.
Yeah, right?
Great-grandpa, you should
Yeah.
have said, yes.
Well, and my husband's also very mechanical and does
Okay.
all that kind of thing. Let's see, and then there's Callie. Callie's just a quiet little thing, and she just loves doing everything that's quiet. She likes to play by herself. She likes to play with others. She has a playhouse. She likes playhouse, that kind of thing. And then there's Will. Will is 100% on every moment he's awake.
Wow.
He's 7, and he's just fast and busy. He's quite the athlete. He likes anything athletic. Football, basketball, baseball, anything like that.
So you said you've got the 2 that are married, so the 5 are like 3 and 2.
Yes.
Are the quiet ones together, or do they have
No, there's 4 with my daughter.
Okay.
So Devin is her quiet one, and
Oh.
then the other one, Callie, is with my son Matt. They all are high school graduates from Oxford. We've lived here forever. Yeah, Jason or
Did they
Matt
find their spouses in Oxford, or did they find them somewhere else?
somewhere else.
Okay.
But they don't leave too far. My husband and I said, we're going to get a motorhome and just drive around. And Shelley says, you'll wake up in the morning, my daughter, you'll wake up in the morning and there'll be little pup tents all over the place. And that made me feel great too. And then let's see, Chandler is Shelley's husband. And they were neighbors. They lived in Pontiac for a little bit, and they were neighbors and met each other there. My son Matt met his wife. He was in a terrible car accident, Matt was. And so he came to work to help me a little bit when he was in rehab. He's doing okay now, but it was a bad accident. Anyway, and he met his wife, Michelle, there. Michelle was working for me as an assistant teacher. And then we have Jason, who met his girlfriend in White Lake. So,
Not far.
yeah, right?
Not far.
I know, nobody's more than about 7 miles from us. So they were all there at Easter, and we just had a
That's
great
wonderful.
time.
That's
and
wonderful for family to.
It really is. We were talking earlier about how important grandparents are. I remember my own grandmother and the things she taught me, and I'm hopeful that my grandkids are learning things from me.
And now you're going to have a little more time to focus on that.
Won't that be great?
Yes.
I know, I'm so happy about that.
That'll be neat. So what are some hobbies you have?
Let's see, what do I love to do? I love to garden.
Okay.
Love my gardens. I do. I play in the dirt all the time. I was out there yesterday all day. Now it's a little harder. So I sit on a milk crate. I have a whole system so that I can get around. The
You're
girls
adapting.
yes. The girls at work gave me this really great it has like a tractor seat. that I can roll around.
Well,
So-
what's in vogue now are the raised beds too, and that makes
And
it
they
easier.
just gave me one.
Uh-huh.
They did for retirement. It
Yeah,
says,
and you'll find that you'll have several of those.
see? And that'll be so great, won't
Yes.
it? And so let's see, so I do that. I like to go camping and love
So
to
do
be
you have that
outside.
motorhome?
Not a motorhome, it's a
Okay.
trailer.
Trailer.
But we do have one.
Uh-huh.
And then we have to and again, we had to circumvent the whole, how do you get in and out of it, because I
Okay,
have
so
trouble
do you
walking.
have you covered many of the contiguous 48, or
No, but
or just
we're-
mainly in Michigan?
Mainly in Michigan, but that's our plan, is to go around.
Okay.
So. I know. We're really excited. My husband's retired as well.
Okay.
He worked at Northwest Propane, now it's Suburban Propane, that's on 24,
Oh, okay.
for 35 years too.
So you're both retiring about the same time
Yeah.
then?
I think I like being retired.
You don't mind that?
I don't mind it. I'm a little sad, and I kind of miss, because I think a lot, so I have lots of ideas.
But you're still around the family, and you aren't far from friends, and
No, right.
and in
you
the
can
community
do-
that you've been a part of for so many years.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure that I get accustomed to it. I love to cook and do that kind of thing too. So people usually like that.
So family came for Easter then.
They did. I made a scavenger hunt. See, so I can do these kind of things now. So it had like a crossword puzzle, and there was math problems and all these different things they had to figure out. I did submit it to Win It Games, because I want to make sure they're learning something.
Definitely. And everybody loves it.
Yeah, they do, and I love it. It's
Uh-huh.
fun for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our next plan will be going camping, getting nice out.
That's neat. It sounds like you've made the best of what's come along, and
Yeah.
you have some mighty fine times ahead of you.
I'm hopeful.
This has been fun today.
It's been great. It was such a pleasure to meet you. Thank you
you,
so
Pat.
much.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having me.
Okay.
The Canine Stray Rescue League began with one woman's dog and a dream. In 1990, Carol Powell lost her dog and searched multiple animal control centers to find him. When she did so, she discovered perfectly healthy dogs needlessly euthanized due to limited space and decided to do something about it. She traveled to multiple animal control centers to buy dogs on death row, and then sat outside supermarkets giving them away to healthy and loving homes. Around this time, Powell bought the property where Canine Stray Rescue resides to this day from a friend. There was only one building to house the dogs, and the rest remained outside in the cold. Flash forward to 2001 in Flint, when current president of the Canine Stray Rescue League, Lori Stevenson, met Carol Powell. Both passionate about dog rescue, they united their efforts and traveled across Genesee County to various animal controls to save dogs from euthanization. Until they found proper families, they often kept the dogs in their own homes. The numbers of rescued dogs grew, and Canine Stray Rescue League began to take shape. Powell and Stevenson ran it themselves with a board of directors. As their funding and popularity grew, they were able to purchase more housing for the dogs. Today, Carol Powell is retired, and keeping the dream alive, Lori Stevenson heads the canine group. She takes in dogs from all over Michigan and from states that border Ohio. Due to connections with a friend in Puerto Rico, she is able to take in strays there, still suffering from the aftermath of the hurricanes in 2017. Canine runs primarily on donations, so they're imperative to the League's survival. When asked how her rescue missions impact society, Stevenson replied that if we teach our children to have compassion for dogs, they'll treat everyone in their life with that same compassion and charity.